Dr. Washington is the president and founder of the Washington Consulting Group, which is a multicultural organizational development firm out of Baltimore, Maryland. In October of 2015, The Economist named Dr. Washington's consulting group as one of the top 10 global diversity consultants in the world. Okay, so we're talking about that level and that caliber of professional that we have with us this afternoon. He has served as an educator, administrator, and consultant in higher education for over 30 years, and is also president of and founder of the Social Justice Training Institute. He also serves as a visiting assistant professor of religion and social ethics at Winston-Salem State University. In our conversation we had this morning, we talked a lot about some mutual friends that we have in the Baltimore area, and with the people that we talked about, and the respect I have for them passes on the respect I have for Dr. Washington in that regard. He's earned his bachelor's degree from Slippery Rock State College and a double master's of science degrees from Indiana University in Bloomington, and his PhD is in college student development from the University of Maryland College Park, and also holds a master's of divinity from Howard University, that School of Divinity. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a treat this afternoon. I encourage you to listen and engage in thought, engage in conversation, and welcome to our campus, to Grand Rapids Community College, Dr. Jamie Washington.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Can you all hear me? Good. So thanks so much for being here this afternoon, and thanks to this entire campus and the leadership that made it possible for me to be here. You've done an amazing job, and we've had two wonderful sessions, three actually, sessions and times together today. And so thank you all for deciding that this was a way that you wanted to spend an hour or so this afternoon. And what we are going to do in that time is build on the work that's been done here, which says we want to work to create a campus environment where equity, diversity, and inclusion is clearly a part of our value, and we want to learn how to more effectively live into that, right? And so it is now 2017, and our work today is about what's the conversation for diversity and inclusion for the next round, right? And so we're not here today to pretend like this is your first time at the rodeo, right? Like you've never been in this discussion before. We are very much aware that if you've been in the workplace for any amount of time, that you've probably been in some space where they've talked something about diversity. So sometimes folks will say, well, what are we going to do? What's he going to say? What do we need to do? How much more do I need to understand? And as I shared in the example this morning, how many of you remember the technology from the 80s? Anybody remember 80s technology? Remember you got mail, right? Right? That dial-up, that sound, and pre-email and pre-internet and pre-social media, you know? There was a time when there was no book. No Facebook, none of that, right? All of those things. And today, all of those things are in existence, are probably on most of your web pages and websites. You will have a Twitter handle or a Facebook, or you operate by email. I was on a dissertation committee a little bit ago, and my one of the student who was on there, he was talking about emailing back and forth his dissertation to his advisor, and I was like, I had to drive it, right? there was no email to send it, right? And so again, so just remembering how far we've come. I share that example because today I believe that lots of folks are doing diversity and inclusion with 1980s technology. And so I want to offer, if we continue to use the technology from the 80s, that we're going to miss some things, right? And this is a session that is going to offer you some upgrades, right? And that's where we're headed. With that name, the intention of this space is to talk about a deeper level of authentic conversation about and across different. So in a few minutes, I'm going to have you kind of up and moving and engage with some conversations with folks. And I'm inviting you to go to a deeper level. I often will say in this context, if there is something in your head, if there's something that comes up for you that you want to say, and the voice in your head says, oh, you can't say that, say that. Because that's where the deeper learning will happen, all right? And so I want to challenge you to find the courage to name that, or minimally get in touch with what's really in the way of my doing that, right? So what would really keep me from doing that? Because that's where you get to do the work from, even if you don't actually say what you need to say. Does that make sense? You getting that? The next thing then is, again, to offer an opportunity for participants to examine the role of diversity as it relates to the mission, and also to offer you some opportunity to understand some key concepts and frameworks as we consider the work we do from this place for 2017, and to share briefly with you what the business case is for this work. How you, in fact, are the greatest instrument for helping the next generation of leaders be prepared to move into the world. So with that named, I'm going to ask for some help passing out the sheets. You're going to get a sheet, and I'm going to give you a few moments for everyone to get a sheet, and then I'm going to give you the instructions. Everybody's going to get a sheet, and you're just going to have a few minutes to engage. Okay? We got them up there. Anybody still need a sheet? Raise your hand if you still need a sheet. You're still coming around. We haven't gotten to that side of the room yet. Perfect. All right. So here's what we're about to do, all right? I want to, right? And actually, you know, it's okay if we share, right? As you move through, if there's folks who don't have them, you just want to make sure that you're going to end up connected with someone who does, and everything is up on the screen, okay, as well. Love that we ran out. That's a great thing, that we ran out. That says something about us being here in this space. Okay, so first thing about upgrading for the conversation in 2017 is lots of times people come to these sessions and they come to learn, right? And what that often means is I'm coming and I'm going to be a passive learner. I am going to sit and I am going to listen to the expert or the person up in front talk about this. And I'm going to leave, and I'm either going to believe it or not believe it or take it or whatever. That's what I'm going to do. That's how the learning is going to happen. Well, that's not the way how adults learn in the first place, right? And so we know something about that. And the next round of work, the next round of building capacity will require that you develop your voice in this conversation. So for that purpose, what you're about to do is you're about to take the next 10 minutes with the people in this room to have some dialogue. So you're about to rise from your seat. Everybody who is able to move about, except Brandon does not have to move. He has crutches, and I don't know if there's other, that's visible to me. I know that about Brandon, and we came over together. But there may be other folks who have mobility challenges in the room, that it's uncomfortable to move about. And so if that is the truth for you, then you just get to raise your hand and say, come to me. Right? People come to me because I can't move around, right? So I want you to pay attention that if Brandon is alone, somebody find your way to him, okay? And anyone else who indicates that there is a need. What I'm saying is you're about to rise up, you're about to go and meet somebody. Hi.
Hey.
Hi, what's your name?
Jose.
Jose, and I'm Jamie, and Jamie, Jose, and I are going to start with the first box. Everybody's starting with the first box. What's up? What has your energy or attention as we get started this afternoon, right? Anything that's going on. I'm getting ready to go on vacation. I can't wait till tomorrow. I'm waiting for my check. I got to pay these bills. The children is acting up. The children are out of school. I can't get them into summer camp. Whatever it is. Whatever has your energy or attention as we get started this afternoon, allow yourself to get present with what's up. Is that making sense, right? Pay attention to that. And then the next one is how you're feeling about being here. Now, my assumption is that all of you decided to come. Right? Now, maybe some of you were voluntold that this was something that you might benefit from or participate in. Anyway, either way, I want you to talk about for a moment with your new partner, Jose and I will be talking about, what's the feelings that come up for me as I consider spending the next hour with this group of people having a real conversation about diversity and inclusion, about saying the stuff that I say in the meeting after the meeting. Who's been in a meeting after the meeting? Yeah, some of y'all called it. Yeah, I can tell. So the meeting after the meeting, the intention of this experience is to help us reduce the need for a meeting after the meeting. That we are creating an environment and a culture where we can say, where we can ask what we need to ask and say in the space so that we can move forward. Is that making sense to you? Right? So after Jose and I have had our conversation, then we get to, if we have something to write with, fine. If we don't, it doesn't matter. I sign his sheet, he signs mine, and then I go and meet a new friend. Hi, what's your name? Hi, Lydia. And then Lydia and I go anywhere on the sheet we want. Lydia might decide to talk about a time that she really felt included and connected to an organization. I might decide to talk about the ways in which I see diversity and inclusion issues show up in my work every day. So we get to do different things. That's where we're going over the next 10 minutes. The goal here is that you have 3 to 4 deeper levels of authentic conversation. Does that make sense? If, in fact, you find yourself talking to the same person for 8 minutes, you've been talking too long, okay? So it should be about a 3 to 4 minute conversation and move on to the next person, all right? I will call time, and then I'm going to ask you just to remain where you are, and I'll give you the next level of instructions after that. Pretty clear? All right, have at it. Make some new friends. So here's the next part. I need you now to just take a moment. You've got 90 seconds. What you're going to do next is you're going to say hi to 4 or 5 people, particularly folks that you haven't met, right, in the community. Say hello to folks. And then you're going to sit down with someone you didn't know when you came in the room. You're going to partner up with a new friend. You're making a new friend. You got it? You have 90 seconds. Go. All right. If you can hear my voice, clap 1 time. You can hear my voice, clap 2 times. Excellent. Perfect. How we doing? Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you for engaging in that way. The energy was amazing as you all got up. When I first said we're passing out these sheets and we're inviting folks to stand up that are able to move about the room and to meet and have conversations with people, here's what I saw. Like, oh no, I didn't come to talk to people, right? That's not what I came here to do, right? And then there were some other folks who was like, yes, let's go, and I'm ready to go. And what I want to honor is that's a part of the diversity of our community, right? That there, for some folks, moving into this discussion, moving into any discussion, feels quite comfortable. I'm comfortable just going and talking with folks. And for other folks, it's a stretch, right? And we want to hold the space for all of that to be fine. And we are going to invite you to stretch. And part of the stretch for folks who felt a little like, your stretch is, it's okay. Did you find it okay? You were all right, right? So we're all still in the room, right? And part of the stretch for folks who were really excited is just pull it down a little bit, right? Just, right? Don't be all up on the people like that. Give them a minute to get comfortable. So all of that matters as we begin to engage. Does that make sense? Are you getting that? All right, so with that, thank you again, and give your partner a high five. High five your partner, right? Excellent, excellent. So this is your heart and head of the matter high five buddy, right? So as we talk about belonging, we're going to spend a little bit of time this afternoon in the heart and the head of the matter, and you've got a high five buddy that's going to go deeper in real conversation with you. No, we don't have a lot of time, but my hope is that you will have experience with this person that will have you get practice. How many of, musicians in the room? Any musicians? How about artists? Any artists? Athletes? Any athletes? How about folks who work out? You get to the gym at least once a year. Yeah, right? And, okay, right, so you get in the gym. Okay, all right. How many of us know that all of those areas require practice, right? How many of you know that people don't always like to go to practice, right? Folks just want to show up for the game, show up for the performance. Part of what's happening in 2017 is folks are showing up at the game and at the performance having not been to practice. And when you don't practice, you don't show up as effective in the game, in the performance. Are you getting me? And so part of our work is, my intention in this space is to create the opportunity for practice. How many of you have been in a space where somebody has said something and you've just not known what to say? Right? It's like, well, I'm feeling something. That was, ooh, right? It made me go, ooh, right? I've had that moment, but I didn't know what to say. It's often because I've not had practice in the conversation, okay? And so you can't get effective if you're not in practice, right? And that's what I want to invite you to do this afternoon. Be in some practice. What you get to do right now with your high five buddy, high five him again. And so for a few minutes, what you get to do is practice. I want you to talk about the impact of this last 10 minutes. So as I spent the last 10 minutes moving around, I learned this, I thought about this. You know, I really wanted to talk about this, but I didn't get to talk about that, right? So just go anywhere in there. And then the last thing I want you to talk about is, what do you see in your day-to-day that makes this session necessary? The people that you work with, the colleagues, the students that you serve, the community that you engage, what do you see as you do your job every day here at GRCC that has this session absolutely be necessary? You've got 4 minutes. All right, excellent, excellent. How we doing? All right, so how many of you could identify something you do well? How many? I could find my strength up there. Here's what I do well. So here's my charge to you. For the remainder of this year, just do that. Operate in your strength. Don't worry about trying to do all of it, but come to your organization, your office, your unit, committed to having all perspectives be valid and welcome. Come prepared to deal with conflict and discomfort and to take the risk to say the unsaid. Come prepared to listen effectively and help others hear more effectively, particularly in the context of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And watch how that begins to shift the culture, right? We use this kind of list often when we're preparing to do training or starting a retreat or doing a classroom. And we use it such that we can create a learning environment of courage and bravery and safety, right? So that we can go to those deeper places. And generally, when we do that, that is what happens. But what has happened is folks do that in the space and leave the room and leave this in the space. And then cannot understand why the organization and the culture hasn't changed. It's because you left the room and stopped being open and honest. You left the room and stopped taking risk. You left the room and stopped respecting confidentiality. So you must practice these things in order to shift and create a greater culture for inclusion. Is that landing for you? So high five your buddy. High five him. And know that when you see them anywhere on campus or at the mall or at the temple or the synagogue, when you high five them, you're going to say, you working your strength? Make sure you work your strength. You working your strength? Make sure you work in your strength. So you are going to, high five buddy's responsibility is to encourage and to remind people to show up in your strength so that, again, we can live into the value of diversity and inclusion that we have. Is that making sense to you? You getting that? All right. This high five buddy thing is something I've been doing for about 5 or 6 years. I have people from 5 or 6 years ago who are still connected to their high five buddies. They connect, they have deeper levels of conversation, they build relationships and connections across departments, across divisions, and across identities. All right? So I don't want you to think it was just something I was doing to fill time. Everything that I'm doing is on purpose. I have 10 minutes left, and I want you to understand high five buddies is about building deeper connection. All right? And about reminding you of the energy that it takes to stay in it, right? Because as soon as you leave, all you need is one text or one email to pull you away from what we spent this last hour and a half doing. Does that make sense? And so you need reminders of the importance of this and the good energy that's in you and that's in the space. With that, the next key concept I want to offer you is breathing. Take a deep breath. Let it out. Breathing is a tool for effective engagement for the next round, right? How many of you know that breathing has saved the day, right? Had I not taken a deep breath, that would not have gone so well, all right? When you take a deep breath, it gives you an opportunity to do what? Think. Relax. Reset. Yes. What I want to offer in this moment is it gives me a moment to get clear about my intentions in my next statement. So we've had a disconnect. We've had a bump. And is my intention, what's your name? Susan. Is my intention in my statement to Susan to help Susan understand the impact of what she said or did or didn't do? Or is my intention to take her out? How many of us know we can show up and take out intentions? Yes. And whether that is to diminish you, to diminish your knowing, to make you wrong, to make you evil, to make you hateful, to make you dumb, to make you stupid, that intention is a takeout intention. That intention is not an intention about being in community, sharing impact, respecting your humanity, but also wanting you to understand why what you said, did, or didn't do was problematic given who I am. Does that make sense? So, as you bump into stuff, what I want you to do is reach in your pocket and say, oh yeah, breathe. Get breathing as an intention. Now, breathing is not about taking away emotion. Breathing is not about taking away real anger, frustration, or passion. Breathing is about getting clear about your intention. And if I show up using this language or using this word or saying this thing, then is that going to meet my intention? Does that make sense? Now, I'm not saying that if you, even when you show up with good intention, that it might not still have a, an uncomfortable moment. Like, my intention here is simply to say the impact of this, and I respect your humanity. That doesn't mean my naming that isn't going to land on a person in a bad way. But it does mean that I am operating in ways that are congruent with my value of inclusion of all of us. Is that making sense to you? Is that landing? So take a deep breath and understand the importance of this last two pieces. The last piece is understanding, repeat this after me, context before content. You must be willing to engage what's the context before we engage the content? The context is informed by so many different things. And I want you to think about how you are a part of the context, how work is a part of the context, how higher education is a part of the context, how being at a community college is a part of the context, how being in Grand Rapids is a part of the context, how being here at this juncture in history is a part of the context. Does that make sense? So having this discussion in 2017 is different than having this discussion in 2000, right? And so context before content. But with that named, the content of this discussion is often what? So when people hear us talking about diversity, they think we're going to talk about what? What's diversity mean? We're going to talk about what? Race. And when we're talking about race, we're talking about who? Black and white people. So if you're not black or white, good luck, right? Maybe we'll find some time for your discussion, maybe we won't. Now, all of us know, right, that diversity is about more than race, and we know race is about more than black and white. So why is it that our minds go to race and black and white? That's what you hear about all the time on the news. Huh? It's easy to see. Yep, what else? History. Right? What I want you to hold, folks, is it's the context. Would you agree that we have a particular race history in the context of the U.S.? Absolutely. And what that means for us, folks, is that if we're going to be effective in the work, we must be willing to do race. We cannot do this work in the way that lots of people do it, and they say, diversity is about more than race, and they want to start here at the more than race space, but not do race. Given our context, given that we've been raced, we must develop the skills and the capacity to engage within and across race. That means we must engage our narratives about race, how we've erased Native Americans, how we often operate in a monoracial space, how we have the myth of the model minority of API and DESI folks, how we have pitted black and brown folks against one another, how there's anti-blackness in the narrative, how white just became a race. We just found that out, that white people had race too, right? And that there is a racialized experience that shows up there. So part of the work is owning race identity and beginning to explore what that means as you move about the world. With that, I want to name that that's not all we have to do. In 2017, we must recognize that we don't just show up in the room as a race person. So when I walk into the room, I don't walk into the room black. Like gender happened to come in with me too. Gender identity and expression. Religion happened to come into the room with me too. Class happened to come into the room with me too. Age happened to come into the room with me too. I just learned that. I didn't know I had age, right? That happens to come into the room with me too, right? And so what I'm saying is, folks, just as we have to do race, we must allow for other identities at the intersections to be in the space. And so your work in the upgrade is to allow identity to be in the room. No longer can you say, I just love people. I just respect all human beings. Because what that says is, I'm not acknowledging that all human beings aren't having the same experience. And so, yes, I see you as a human being, and your experience because of race is different than mine. Your experience because of gender is different than mine. Your experience because of class is different than mine. And am I willing to look at what that means as we create greater inclusion here at GRCC? When I was an undergraduate at Slippery Rock State College back in I was committed to ending racism. I was going to end it before I left. Well, So much for that. Still working on that one. I left Indiana, and I left Slippery Rock and went to Indiana and discovered sexism. Who knew? And so I got there, and I got committed. I'm going to end sexism before I leave. Still working on that one, too. I share that to say with you folks is that what I realize is ours may not be to end it or to fix it. Every generation has its opportunities to make it better. And so I want to invite you to think about, maybe I don't get to end it or to fix it, but how do I leave it better than I found it? And so your work for the upgrade, the heart and the head of the matter, is to leave this place better than you found it. I believe you can. I hope you will. Thank you.
Did you have time for question and answer? No, we're out of time, aren't we?
So let me say, this isn't about them, it's about the plane, right? And I have to get to a 4:30 flight. So I'm not really interested in leaving you. I just want to hang out. But it's the last direct flight back to Baltimore. I'm not interested in doing a 6-hour back, right? So I'm going to leave, but this isn't my last visit. I'll see you next time. Thank you.
So I told you that you were in for a treat today. What a great, great afternoon you give us. One more hand, please, for Dr. Washington.
Thank you.
Just some time ago, I was speaking with a friend of mine who was sharing with me that in their particular neighborhood, that they have this homeowners association, and what happened in their neighborhood, they have a nice playground in their neighborhood, and what happened in their neighborhood is that for some reason it was vandalized, this playground. And the vandalism included a whole lot of really nasty, nasty, very racist remarks on that play equipment. And so my friend, African-American young lady who has a family and children and a husband in that neighborhood, she just decided that through the neighborhood association, she would write an email just to the association, those members, the people in the neighborhood, that just said, as one of the only and really the only African-American family in this community, I just want to let you know this really scares us, scares my children, it scares us. And I just want to make sure you know how I don't know who did this, but just want to let you know how I feel and how this makes us feel, and what that does, and understanding that there are many people I'm writing to didn't do this, but just want to make sure you know how our family sits, how this sits with our family. And then she told me about the very kind remarks that she received back in email from her statement, and friends and people in that neighborhood saying, "We're so sorry. This is so horribly tragic." But then she told me about how her and her husband and her kids were out walking in the neighborhood kind of after dinner one evening, and a gentleman in the neighborhood came up to them, and he said, "Okay, are you the individual that wrote that email?" And she said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Can I just hug your kids? Can I just hug them?" She said, "Well, sure." And he hugged her kids. He hugged her and embraced her husband. And he said, "I am so sorry for what happened. I am so sorry. Can I take you out to dinner? Can I feed you? What can I do for your family?" She said, "It's okay. We're good. We got food." And he just was over. He said, "I just got to do something. I got to do something." So he wanted to do something that was very, very tangible. Wanted to give a hug. Wanted to take you out to eat. Just wanted to do something that way. And she said what that helped her to realize is that something similar to what Dr. Washington said today. She said what that helped me realize is that what he was thinking about, and granted, she said, I was proud and happy that he was making strides because he was kind of sitting there struggling with all this. She said, so I was happy for him. She said, but I also realized is that what he was really caught up in was that I got to just do something to this. I got to throw something at it, and it'll all be better. And friends, I would say that in our regard, as we enter into a school year here very soon, that these conversations come up, that's going to be a natural reaction for some people is, I just got to throw something at it. If I just, and that's it. If I could just do, and then that's it, it's over. Well, it's more of how you and I can engage in, as Dr. Washington said, how we can engage in conversation, how we can comfortably talk about it, whatever those issues of diversity and inclusion and equity, that we can comfortably engage. And I say comfortably because it's comfortable to be able to at least to sit down and start talking, but it's very uncomfortable conversation. But that's okay. That's all right. Because it is in those discomfortable moments, those uncomfortable moments, that we can get somewhere on these kind of conversations. So that by the end of that conversation, by the end of a school year, by the end of a time that you and I are blessed to be employed at this, in my mind, in this institution, that indeed, as Dr. Washington said, that you and I can leave it better than what it was when we came. And that, to me, at least for my work here, is paramount. That I can at least hopefully leave it better than when I got here as an institution. And these are the kind of conversations that help us get down that road. I certainly am happy to see you here today. I certainly hope that the rest of your summer, boy, I talked about fall, didn't I? I mentioned going back to school. That's easy for a man who tomorrow morning, my family and I, we get to go on vacation tomorrow, so we are thrilled. Got a week and a half, amen. But I hope you have a good rest of the summer. I hope you are getting some really cool things done, not only here on campus, but I hope you're taking time to get those cool things done with your family. I tell people all the time, we give you vacation for a reason. Not so you can save them all up. No, that you use them. You get your rest, you get your recharge, and you get back here to work. Thank you guys so much. Have a good afternoon.